Mass extinctions. The Cambrian explosion was truly an amazing event, but this couldn't last forever. It ended 488 million years ago in an extinction called the Cambrian Ordovician extinction event that causes a lot of trilobite and mollusk species to disappear. While this extinction is not well understood, a sudden crash in oxygen levels may have been to blame, and remember that a lot of pivotal events in the Paleozoic will hinge on the amount of oxygen in the ocean or in the atmosphere. But the next period, the Ordovicians bounced back with another burst in diversity. It is known as the Great Ordovician Biodiversification Events, or GOBE, so that the continents were on the move, creating new chains of islands and with them isolated habitats. And this, combined with changes in sea level and another boost of oxygen in the ocean, simulated a lot of rapid change. This is when the first true fish appear on the scene. The ostracoderms, cephalopods reach new lengths, like the shelled giant Camarasaurus. The very first land plants sprouted on the primordial rocks. Early greenery might have been too successful. A massive number of plants on land took so much carbon dioxide that the Earth's temperature plummeted and boom! Ice Age. This combination caused the most devastating mass extinction so far. The Ordovician Silurian extinction events wiped out 86% of marine species. That includes trilobites and cephalopods. It marked the beginning of the next period, the Silurian. Life was able to recover once again in the Silurian, and this time the climate gradually warmed. Plants, for example, started to spread over, as ostracoderms were still the most common swimmers in the sea, and the Silurian drew so close with its own of extinction events. The period that followed, the Devonian, was when insects and terrestrial archonics emergence. Trees also arose at this time, forming a canopy above the arthropods, and these Devonian forests became the first major terrestrial ecosystems on land. Meanwhile, back at the water's edge, varieties of lobe-fin fish has adapted to spend more time on land, pulling themselves along the muddy shorelines. By the late Devonian, 365 million years ago, tetrapods had made their way across the entire globe. Period ended in another mass extinction. These events are known as the late Devonian extinctions, to have been caused by a series of drops in oxygen levels in the seas. Many trilobites and all of the armored placoderms had vanished. Some early tetrapods survived into the next period, the Carboniferous. This time, oxygen in the atmosphere ramped up, and this, along with the humid, warm climate, allowed dense forests and swamps to spread across the globe. All that oxygen was also a plus for the arthropods, which got huge in the Carboniferous. Around 340 million years ago, a group of tetrapods called amniotes began laying their eggs with shells that protected them from dying out, and this turned out to be a crucial adaptation because it was around this time that the continents began to merge into a single supercontinent. That it was impossible for moisture from the ocean to reach inland. The result, a severe drop in humidity and temperature that wiped out much of the Carboniferous forest, and they rapidly split into two major groups, the reptiles and the synapsids. and both groups spent the last period of the Paleozoic, the Permian. Synapsids were actually stem mammals, and they were survivors, producing the first large terrestrial herbivores like Dimetrodon. But as the Permian went on, the climate got hotter and drier. But this Permian safari park came to an especially terrifying end. It was probably caused by a combination of volcanic activity and climate change, but the result, the Permian-Triassic extinction events. 96% of marine species and the stem mammals and reptiles suffered as well, with a 70% loss of species.
Let's move on to the next era, the Mesozoic. In the early Mesozoic, Earth's land masses had almost finished merging into a single supercontinent, the Pangaea. The stage was set for the first act of the Mesozoic, the Triassic period. At first, the planet was populated only by the survivors of the Paleozoic, the temnospondyls, and the early relatives of mammals called therapsids. And by the middle of Triassic, around 243 million years ago, the real rising stars of the Archosaurs appeared, the first dinosaurs. All of the earliest known dinosaurs were members of the same group known today as Saurischians. And around 230 million years ago, they diverged into two of their most iconic groups, the long-necked sauropods and two-legged, mostly meat-eating theropods. 201 million years ago, Pangaea began to break apart as North America drifted away from the rest of the continent. This caused a spike in volcanic activity that sent greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. The resulting rise in global temperatures triggered an event known as the End Triassic Mass Extinction that causes the Paleozoic era to die.
Which brings us to the second act of this story, the Jurassic period. Ornithischians became the eating machines of the Mesozoic. They probably first appeared back in Triassic, but this was when they started to spread in diversity. The group became so successful that eventually it would grow to encompass many of the most prolific kinds of dinosaurs. Reptiles took center stage, moving into most of the large animal niches. But one of the fuzzy therapsids managed to survive in the Jurassic, and for the long time, its members played only minor roles. By the middle of the period, mammals had diversified that could swim like beavers and glide like flying squirrels. Alongside these new types of mammal was a group of theropods that will also take to the air, acquiring the first complete wing feathers called Paravian dinosaurs. Changing, constantly cycling climate of cooling and warming and a jolt of volcanic activity against the Pacific Ocean resulted in the end of Jurassic that occurred 145 million years ago. These events ushered the third act of the Mesozoic, the Cretaceous period, which was the longest period of the Mesozoic. One of the first breakthroughs of the Cretaceous was the appearance of flowers. By 125 million years ago, big predatory coelurosaurs like Uraceraptor were roaming around North America. Both in the Middle Cretaceous, a new group of sauropods called Titanosaurs were outgrowing all of their Jurassic relatives. In the north, a group of feathered coelurosaurs were reaching the rank of apex predator. These were the Tyrannosaurids, the largest of the tyrannosaurs. Beneath of these animals, the Cretaceous continents continued to drift apart. Because of this, the largest volcanic eruptions on Earth's history occurred, lasting for tens of thousands of years. Volcanic gases likely had powerful effects on the air and oceans, and in the midst of these eruptions, another disaster came. A giant asteroid struck the Earth, spewing ash into the atmosphere, creating an impact winter that starved plants and phytoplanktons. These twin disasters threatened all life on Earth. The largest animals that needed the most food was the most affected. It is now known as the KPG extinction. It brings the disappearance of 75% of the world's species. Thanks to their small sizes and more varied diets, the placentals, marsupials, and monotremes all made it. The flowers that first bloomed in the Cretaceous are now numerous than ever, and even some of the mighty archosaurs have persisted into our day as crocodilians and as birds, the last surviving saurischians. Let us remember, nature doesn't need people. People need nature. Nature survived the extinction of the human being and just go on, just fine. But human culture, human beings cannot survive without nature.